Welcome to the start of your boxing journey. So you want to learn how to box? Don't worry, I got you. My beginner boxers, this is the perfect video for you. Whether you want to start integrating boxing into your everyday workout routine through my channel, a boxing studio class, your own personal boxing coach, this video covers all the basics and everything you need to know to have a good first successful training session. My name is Jeremiah. I've been covering boxing training and sharing it with the world for the last 10 plus years. From fighters to everyday clients to beginner boxers to group settings to private settings, online, boxing is my passion and I'm happy to share it with you on this channel. If you like the video, if you want more of content like this, boxing workouts, boxing tutorials, a little more insight into the boxing training I have to offer, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you know when I got a new video up. And on that note, I think it's time to get to work. Let's get it.
I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, pace.
All right, so before we even break down all the nitty-gritty details of your basics when it comes to my beginners, it's really important that you lock it in here first, mentally. All right, I always talk about boxing being a mind and body connection. It shapes our mind just as much as our body. So really understand this when you're starting your boxing journey, that there's going to be so many details, so many different elements, so many different aspects just to the basics. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but I want you to understand that it is normal to not get things right off the bat. But it is very beneficial to take those things that you're not getting off of the bat and to practice them over and over and over again. That's what I love about boxing. All right, it doesn't matter how athletic you are, how athletically gifted you are, how fast, how strong you are. It matters how many times you're willing to practice those basics. Get that mindset in. Don't get discouraged because it's a lot of information, but also understand that you can simply get better by just staying focused and giving good repetition throughout everything. Cool, let's get right into it. All right, so let's kick off this beginner tutorial right. Your boxing stance, all right? So this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna start off doing this with me. Your feet actually a little wider than shoulder width apart. So feet a little wider than shoulder width apart. Next, I need you to figure out your dominant hand, meaning whichever hand you write with, whichever hand you brush your teeth with, that's going to be your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right foot, I'm going to step it back behind me, keeping the feet wider than shoulder width still, and slightly turning to the right. If you are left-handed, you're a southpaw now, you're going to take your left foot, you're going to step it back behind you, and slightly turn to the left. All right, one more time. Find your dominant hand, feet a little wider than shoulder width apart. If you're right-handed, right foot behind you, slightly turn to the right. If you are left-handed, left foot behind you, slightly turn to the left. Anytime I'm teaching boxing to beginners, especially wanting to lay down a good foundation, understand this, all right? You work from the ground up. So let's stay on the feet right now. Your feet are slightly turned 45 degrees. Why? You don't want to be too squared up towards your opponent. Look, you may never ever have to actually box somebody, but you want to understand why you do certain things so you could execute them with better technique. So if I'm boxing somebody, or if I'm hitting the bag, or my coach is holding mitts for me, I don't want to be too squared up towards them. And how I do that is by slightly turning my stance to the side. If I'm directly pointed forward, look how squared up my body is. If I'm directly completely to the side, my balance may be thrown off. A good 45-degree turn will be the perfect balance when pointing your feet and not squaring up. Now, I will refrain from saying left or right now. I'm going to refer to everything as front or back. All right, so for my left-handed southpaws, you won't get confused by me saying right or left. Same with my orthodox. I'll talk about everything front and back. So you have your front foot, you have your back foot. You have your front hand, you have your back hand right here. Talking about the feet still though. Watch your back foot. You want it staggered out a little bit, and you want that heel slightly elevated, lifted off of the ground. One more time, that back foot, heels lifted off of the ground. All right, light on that back toe, and you want to stagger it out. If you have a line going straight down your stance right here, straight down the middle of your stance, you want your front foot on one side of the line and your back foot on the other side of the line right here. Think of this as your kickstand, like on a bike, right? You have the kickstand out to help with the balance of the bike so it doesn't topple over. Same thing with your back foot. You want to keep it staggered out a little bit. When it starts to creep behind you like this, your balance is going to get thrown off tremendously. All right, keep that back foot staggered out a little bit more. That'll help with the balance of your boxing stance. Always doing little recaps and reviews as I go through a lesson. That'll keep the details of the lesson fresh in your mind. So again, knees are bent, feet are turned 45 degrees, heel is elevated off the ground, you're light on that back toe. Let's work our way up now. All right, your front shoulder right here, I like to point it at whoever I'm boxing. Again, visualize your opponent. It could be your bag, it could be somebody you're boxing when you're shadow boxing, it could be your coach holding mitts for you. I'll point this front shoulder at whoever I'm boxing. That way I'm not too squared up. Hands up to your face and your elbows tight to your body. This is your perfect traditional boxing stance. Now, you may ask, how about this stance? How about a Philly shell stance? How about a high guard stance? There are so many different boxing stances. Remember this phrase right here. Pay close attention. Remember this phrase. Distance dictates everything when it comes into boxing. So depending on how far you are away from your opponent will matter what kind of punch you're going to throw, will matter what kind of defense you're going to rely on, footwork you're going to rely on, and what kind of boxing stance you're in. This is a beginner boxing tutorial, so we'll stick to the basics for now. Try to perfect that traditional boxing stance right here. Feet are turned 45 degrees. Your back foot, heel is elevated. All right, slightly staggered out. Your knees are slightly bent. Your front shoulder is pointed at whoever you're boxing. Your hands are up to your face and your elbows are tight to your body. That is your traditional boxing stance for my beginners. Let's move on to our punches. All right, so meeting me in that boxing stance, let me teach you your first punch, your most important punch. I could go on about this punch, but for now, again, my beginners will keep it as basic and to the point as possible. Your front hand jab. All right, so anytime you throw this front hand jab, of course your front hand, you're gonna fully extend it out and rotate it and retract it straight back. All right, anytime you're shadow boxing, anytime you're perfecting or practicing your boxing stance, again, it's very important you need to visualize your target, visualize your opponent. That way, when we're practicing throwing our punches or shadow boxing in a workout or using that for our training, we're not punching here, we're not punching there, we're visualizing a realistic target. Visualize your target, your front hand, you're gonna fully extend it out all the way and retract it straight back to the starting position. All right, drive through with that front hand and fully extend it straight back. Let me point out a couple things right here when you're throwing the jab. Throwing the jab, hold it out for me if you're doing this with me, all right? Your backhand glued to the cheek and keeping that back elbow tight to the body. A good habit I like to form, all right, anytime I throw a punch or a big power punch, I actually like to open up that hand a little bit on the other side. Look how much of my face is covered when I'm making a fist, right? Open it up a little bit more, the face is covered just a tad bit more. Maybe with the boxing glove on, it'll be half of that, but every little inch matters. So keep that hand open up, keep it tight, drive through right here. Now, I fully extend this jab. What's going on my front shoulder? It's also protecting my chin right here as it's tucked and retract it straight back. One thing you need to understand about when you throw your punches, all right? As fast as you throw a punch, you want to learn to bring it back just as fast. We tend to think about throwing hard, fast punches, but we don't think about bringing them back to our face just as fast. So try to form that habit now, especially since you're starting your boxing journey as a beginner. Full extension with that jab, retract it straight back. Drive that jab straight through your target, retract it straight back. This is your jab. It's with your front hand. Other hand is tight to your face. The next punch I want to show you, your backhand cross, all right? Same concept as a jab, as is going straight down the middle, but this has a little bit more pop, a little bit more power behind it, okay? How you distribute power with this cross. Straight down the center, rotating that punch, that shoulder's covering your chin, the other hand is tight to your face, but you're driving your hip and your body behind that punch a tad bit more, all right? By driving the hip behind that punch, you distribute your full body weight behind that backhand cross. Drive it straight through, turn it over, rotate it. Some people like to teach pouring out a cup of water. Look, not every time you need to turn your punch over like this. You want to meet them with those two knuckles anytime you drive through that target, all right? But if you aim for this, full speed, you may meet right in the middle. I get it. That's why they teach that, all right? And retract it straight back. Remember that phrase I taught you earlier. Distance dictates everything in boxing. So a lot of people like to teach pivoting the feet. What happens when you pivot the foot? The whole body moves. Sometimes when you're boxing, you may not want to show your whole body movement by showing that punch coming at you. So learn how to just drive the hip for now by slightly turning that front foot, or excuse me, that back foot on that backhand cross. Drive the cross straight through the center, retract it straight back. Drive the cross straight through that target you're visualizing, drive it straight back. Quick recap. You got your 1. This is your jab. Retract it. Your 2. This is your backhand cross. Retract it. Moving on. Your hooks. All right. Your front hook. 3. Back hook. 4. People like to use numbers. People like to use the actual punch name. We'll use both. All right. Visualize your target. So if your target straight down the center is right in front of you, right here when you're throwing the jab and cross, you want it to be as realistic as possible. Throwing the front hook and the back hook, driving through the side of that target, all right? Meet me at the end point of the hook right here. Your elbow will be up, locked out, and bent. Your palm will face you. Some people like to teach the hook to be 90 degrees every time. Look, distance dictates everything. Not every time will your opponent's face or your bag be 90 degrees away from you when you throw that hook. So you may have to open up from this elbow depending on how far that opponent is, that target is. Meet me at the end point right here. Your front hook, elbows bent, palm is facing you, backhand is tight to your face. Now to get power on the front hook, just like we talked about the cross earlier, you want to drive with this front hip, driving through the side of that target and retract it back. Notice I follow through and drive through that target I'm visualizing, not meeting the target, but I want to learn to drive through it a little bit more. Front hook right here, back hook right here with your backhand, your stronger hand. Common mistake I tend to see is when we throw our hooks, we tend to visualize the target right here. We throw the straights there, but we throw the hooks right here again. Be realistic when you throw your punches, especially when you're shadow boxing. If your opponent is all the way over here, but you're throwing the hook right here right after, you're visualizing that your opponent's face is that big. That ain't never the case, right? Drive through the most realistic target that you can visualize. Jab straight down the center. Cross straight down the center. Front hook through the side of your target. Back hook through the side of your target. Palm faces you. Elbow is bent. Next 2 punches I want to show you, final 2 punches, are your uppercuts, all right? Kind of similar to the hooks. The arm will be bent, the palm faces you, but you're driving through the bottom of your target. Again, visualize that target, all right? Driving through the bottom of the target. Your front uppercut, front palm faces you. Elbow is bent and driving that hip through the bottom of it. Check my other hand. Backhand is tight to the face. Back elbow is tight to the body. Back uppercut, same concept, but with your stronger hand, your backhand driving through the bottom of that target. Quick recap. All 6 punches for my beginners that you should know. Front hand jab, backhand cross, front hook, back hook, front uppercut, back uppercut. One more time. Jab, cross, front hook, back hook, front uppercut, back uppercut. 1, the jab. 2, the cross. 3, front hook, slightly turning those hips, right? 4, back hook. 5, front uppercut. 6, back uppercut. You know your boxing stance. You know your basic punches. Let's cover some basic defensive movements that you will integrate in the start of your boxing journey. Defense, right here. First, basic defensive movement is to probably understand how to defend the first punch you knew how to throw. So if you learn the jab, let's learn one way to defend that jab. If a jab is coming at you straight down this line, one way you could defend that jab is to slip the jab. By slipping the jab, you're taking your head off of that center line that straight punch is coming at you. You're moving your head out of the way and then coming back straight into position. Couple things you want to understand when executing a defensive movement. Just like a punch where you throw fast and bring it back fast, same thing when it comes into defense. You got to move fast, but come back into position just as fast, all right? And think about it this way. If you're using a defensive movement to avoid a punch, specifically a slip, what does that mean? You need to slip faster than that punch is actually coming at you. So you may throw punches fast, but practice defense slow. Create the habit now as a beginner. Throw fast punches, but execute defense just as fast. All right, so check it out. Straight punches coming at you. Slipping to my backhand to avoid that jab and coming back into position. You could also slip the other way. A good way to defend a cross. Slipping to your front hand and coming straight back. When you slip a straight punch right here, there's even multiple ways on slipping. Side to side motion, similar to like a Mike Tyson, where he's going side to side rapidly, or more point in the shoulder, similar to like a Floyd Mayweather. He likes to point the shoulder a little bit more when he moves his head on those slips. I like a good balance of both. Again, distance dictates everything depending on what you really want to execute in which scenario, but let's keep it basic for now. A good way to slip for beginners, moving your head off of that center line by slightly bending the knees and coming back straight into position. Slip to the back, straight back into position. Slip to the front, straight back into position. All right, slip back, slip front. Move your head off of that center line just as fast and come back into position just as fast. All right. One thing I may have missed as I was teaching y'all punches, breathing through it, exhaling through it. As you execute the move, exhale. As you're throwing a punch, exhale. Okay, so you learn how to slip to the back, slip to the front. That's how we're going to avoid a straight punch. Now, how can you dodge a hook? Simplest way, a duck, where you're going to go straight down and straight up. All right, most basic way, straight down and straight up. Actually, my boxing coach, a 2-time world champion, told me this. A duck is one of the most underrated defensive movements. People like to roll. I like to duck straight down and up. Look, I still use a roll, all right, but when it comes into relying on defensive movements, I like a duck, because a duck, you have the probability of defending 4 different punches, all right? A front hook, back hook, or jab and cross coming at you. You can avoid it by dropping straight down and coming straight up. Think about it like this, though. If a punch is coming at your chin right here, how low do you have to go in order to avoid that punch? You need to drop quick and come back to position just as fast. All right, straight down, straight up, hands stay at your face, elbows stay tight to your body right here. Notice my back foot, my heel's elevated still, and this is where this is key to getting a little more speed off of your duck, pushing off that back toe, coming straight down and straight up. Now that we covered the importance of the duck, let's cover the technique when it comes into rolling the punch now. So meet me in that boxing stance. Another way you can defend that hook, not just by ducking, but you could also roll under a punch. Notice when I roll under the punch, my hands are up here, still at my face, my elbows are tight to the body. I'm bending my knees just like I do a duck, but this time I'm making a little U motion with it. Look, when I execute a defensive movement, it's not a big movement, all right? Look how big my hand is. You only have to move this amount in order to avoid that punch. So I make a small U motion going towards my backhand, rolling to the back, or I make a small U motion going towards my front side, my front hand, rolling to the front. All right, hands are up here, elbows are tight here. You could roll to your back hand. You could roll to your front hand. All right, again, rolling to the back, knees are bending. U motion towards the back side. U motion towards that front side. You're rolling to the front. My heel stays elevated the whole time I'm pushing off that back toe. This is so key to not just your punches, your boxing stance, but your defensive movement as well. Roll to the back hand. Roll to the front hand. Front hook's coming at you, rolling this way. Back hook's coming at you, rolling this way. All right, quick recap of the defensive movement that we just went over. Hands are up, elbows are tight. Straight punches coming at you. You could slip to the back, slip to the front. Hooks are coming at you. You could roll to the back. You can roll to the front. You could drop it straight down and up in that duck. Boxing stance one more time. Slipping to the back, slipping to the front, rolling to the back, rolling to the front, ducking straight down. As fast as you throw your punches, you want to emphasize that speed on your defensive movement as well. The final thing I want to show y'all beginner boxers is what I think is actually one of the most important things in boxing is footwork. Look, very rarely in boxing will you just stand in one place the whole time, throwing punches and moving your head. You need to understand how to move throughout the whole ring as well. Boxing stance for me, there are two basic rules when it comes into your footwork in boxing. All right, first rule is any direction you need to move, that foot will lead. What does that mean? If you were to move forward, your front foot will move first. If you need to step back away from someone, your back foot will move first. Again, front foot when you move forward, back foot when you move back. The second rule though, if one foot moves, the second foot follows the same amount, the same distance. So if this front foot moves forward 3 inches, this back foot will follow 3 inches. You're in your boxing stance. I need to take a step forward. Front foot leads, back foot follows. I need to take a step back. Back foot leads, front foot follows. All right, one more time. You can step forward, you can step back, just like we emphasize the speed and intensity on your punches, on your defense. Guess what? Your footwork needs to match that speed and intensity as well. Stepping forward, stepping back, you can do it with speed as well. All right, quick recap on everything I went over with you today from my beginner boxers, your boxing stance. Working from the ground up, your feet are turned to the side, your knees are bent, your back foot, that heel is elevated off of the ground. You point your front shoulder at whoever you're boxing. Your hands are up to your face, your elbows are tight to your body. Your punch is the jab, the cross, the front hook, the back hook, the front uppercut, the back uppercut. You visualize those targets and you also know how to defend those punches now. Slip back, slip front. Duck it straight down, roll back, roll front. You could take a step forward or you could take a step back. Thank y'all for joining me on this boxing journey. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification on the YouTube channel. I'm going to be dropping boxing workouts, more beginner boxing tutorials so you could take everything that you're learning with me and implement it on your own, or maybe watch some of my clients, some of my fighters implementing it on their own as well. Really excited to understand and learn more about what everybody wants when it comes into their boxing journey. So make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this video. All right, welcome to the channel. And I always talk about the maestre mentality. Keep elevating yourself so you can elevate those around you. Peace.